listening to Xposed Living, Be Ageless, the podcast where we drop the masks, flip the script, and talk real life, real love, and real leadership unfiltered. I'm Stacey Vanthuyne, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and founder of the Xposed Living movement that's redefining what it means to live, lead, and grow at any age. We talk identity, reinvention, belief, and freedom from the bedroom to the boardroom. Yes, we go there. This is not about staying young. This is about waking up. So if you're done with the shoulds and craving more fun, more freedom, more truth, more you, then grab your favorite drink, your bestie, maybe your journal. It's time. Let's get exposed. Today's guest is someone whose work stopped me in my tracks because it's not just about posting. It's about how we show up in every relationship when stress, fear, and trauma are in the room. Bryan Post knows this firsthand. As an adoptee himself, he grew up inside the very story he now helps families heal from. What makes Bryan so powerful is that his mission was born out of lived experience and transformed into a message that touched families all over the world. He calls it the fear to love method, a simple but profound truth. When we understand that all behavior is communication, and when we choose love over fear, everything shifts. Bryan has built a lifetime of work around this through books like Fear to Love and The Great Behavior Breakdown, through his nonprofit and therapy institutes, and even through Bondify.ai, his AI-powered parenting support app that brings guidance into the palm of a parent's hand. But before all the accolades and innovation, what drew me to Bryan is his heart. Bryan and I met a few years ago at Rise and Record in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was an instant connection. He's real. He's lived in it. He helps me to breathe. And he shows us that healing isn't complicated. It begins with love and regulation. Bryan, thanks so much for joining me today, and welcome to Xposed Living.
Thank you, Stacey. It's my pleasure and honor. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're the best. Honestly, when I launched the podcast and I put it out there, you're one of the first people that jumped in to support me. And I just want to say thank you so much. I know we've had a number of conversations throughout the past couple of years around parenting. And when I thought of one of our main pillars of Xposed Living being around parenting and family, your name was first on the list because you've been able to help me even with my own sense of parenting of teenagers. And I know that Gen X people living or listening to this today are going to benefit from it. So you ready to dive into some stuff?
Let's do it.
All right, rock and roll. Bryan, you often say healing begins with love and regulation. Forefront of what you teach. Can you take us back to your personal story, how being an adoptee shaped your mission for the Fear to Love method?
Well, it actually influenced it 100%. I always say that God put me in this world to do what I do, so every experience I ever had programmed me for this understanding, and that goes back to being conceived to a mother out of wedlock who could not keep me for herself, so placed me for adoption, being placed in a home of two loving and well-meaning but emotionally absent parents who didn't really understand what it meant to parent traumatized adopted children, and they were very old school in their parenting, so that led to a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm. And then I had a sister who was also adopted. We weren't biological, and she really struggled with my parents. So I pretty much grew up in World War III, just as families can experience, all the stress and the drama of the challenges of navigating trauma-based relationships. And it just informed everything that I do. So it's in my cells, so to say. It's in my DNA.
In your cells, in your DNA. I know. Well, so I think that people normalize stress, and I think you felt that you grew up in this really loud, what does that mean for a kid? Because I think the yelling? Is it the expectations? What does like a stressful environment?
Actually, I think it probably was less the expectations, but a stressful environment in my home was having a dad who was a Vietnam veteran who had severe post-traumatic stress disorder, having two parents who were children of alcoholics. My mother's father had a heart attack in front of her at the kitchen table when she was 9 years old. They never talked about it, never worked through it. And so then they were both raised very traditionally and very parentified. So they never actually had a childhood. They raised their siblings. They had sibling groups of 10 and 9. And so they were very traditional in their parenting, which meant whipping, it meant yelling, it meant shaming. It meant all the most common things that we still do today as parents in society, and don't realize that all of those things create more stress and more overwhelm. And the stress is actually the culprit. So we're actually doing more of the thing that is creating the problem to begin with. So yeah, I grew up with a father who would bring out the leather strap and had no qualms about smacking you in the face, shaming you, calling you bad names, and that was just par for the course.
Like, it's interesting because I think if people might be listening and say, well, I don't bring out the strap and I don't really shame them. So, like, I mean, you say, like, kind of, I don't know if it's drastic, but like more, oh, I would never do that. But what would be some things that today some people may not be realizing they're doing that is kind of in alignment with that?
I love that, and thank you for asking for that framework. So the most common parenting tool we use is timeout. So timeout creates isolation, and children don't act out for attention. Children act out because they need attention. Another common practice that parents often use is sarcasm. So in dealing with their children's challenges, they use sarcasm, or they use inappropriate humor, or they're just emotionally disconnected and they're too busy in their own lives to slow down, spend time, be present, and try to understand the root of the problem instead of just looking at the problem itself. And then obviously we do lots of yelling when we get frustrated and stressed out. And probably more than anything is we just don't seek understanding. We don't seek to understand what's driving the behaviors our children are having. We just react to the behaviors. We try to control. I say in the instance of behavior problems, we try to control, suppress, or change.
So, like, help me, because I believe, like, when you describe something, I know I've done those things. And
Okay.
and it was never meant in a way that, like, knowing the harm it could cause. And like sometimes I'll be like, I don't even know how else to react. Like, I don't, like, what to seek to understand. Like, if there wasn't a consequence in some of the things, then I didn't think that people or the kid would not the kid, my daughters,
Would
don't call
learn.
her the kid, but the children would like change. So it's
Yeah.
like this belief that says, unless I'm very strict with this, unless there's a consequence, then they won't understand. And I help me with this, because I think there's a lot of parents out there that we don't know that we're causing damage.
Well, and I'm not going to go so far as to say causing damage. In some instances, yes, but well-meaning, well-intended parents practice traditional parenting based on what they learned from their parents and from their grandparents and from their great-grandparents. So they never stop to ask, is there a better way of doing this? Because we're programmed, right? And so my approach, which I call a love-based approach, is really just a different paradigm of thinking. So the most simple, most powerful mechanism that we have available to us when our children are acting out is realizing that, number one, they're acting out because they're stressed out. Number two, their acting out causes us to be stressed out. So the most powerful mechanism we have available to us is to stop, to slow down, and to breathe. And most parents never do that because they never know that that is a dynamic that is within their control. Joseph Ledoux, one of my favorite scientific statements, one of my favorite scientific quotes is, in times of stress, our thinking becomes confused and distorted, and our short-term memory is suppressed. So when you're stressed out, you're not thinking clearly and you can't remember. So if that's for us as adults, it sure is for our children. So the most important thing we have to do in any given moment is we have to slow down and we have to breathe. And when we can slow down and breathe, we can think more clearly and we can remember.
It's interesting, right? Because I would always say, like, when it's like that reactionary thing, and basically it's like we don't think, the program just takes over. So,
That's
and
right.
it's not just in parenting, it's in
It's in
everything,
life.
right? Like if
Yeah.
you're in a conversation, doesn't go around, you just stop, like snap. It's just, you're not even thinking. And so I do believe, like what you're saying, that many of us were raised in this control first type of parenting style. So how does shifting from fear and control to love and connection actually work in practice? Like, is it as simple as stop, drop, and breathe?
Pretty much, pretty much. And let me tell you how it works in practice, because parenting out of control only works so long. And I just talked to a parent an hour before I talked to you. Their 16-year-old snuck onto social media, an adopted child, connected with the biological family. Mother had no idea, had never wanted it to happen that way, wanted to work herself, wanted to be a part of it herself. So because of the control dynamic that is in the relationship, the child goes out and sneaks and then goes and enters into a relationship, which is going to be really difficult for her to navigate. My response to mom, because then mom's like, well, I didn't want it to be this way. Well, number one, now you didn't want it to be this way, but here it is. So mom's next reaction, and I say reaction instead of response, because a reaction is without thought, right? A response requires thinking. Mom's next reaction is, well, I want to control this and I want to pull it back. I want to dial it in. That's the wrong reaction, because it already is where it's at. And the little girl, she's not little, she's 16 years old, is saying basically if she can't have this relationship, she's just going to ball up and die, which has its own implications. So basically I said to mom, I said, listen, you have to realize she's regressed. Number two, she's regressed, she's stressed, she's regressed, she's a baby, she's not even 16. Number two, it's too late to try to control it. Now you have to try to influence it. And this is what we lose when we control. When you seek to control, you can only do it for so long before the child says, you're not going to control me, you're not in charge of me. So you have to seek to influence, and that's what connection allows you. Relationship allows you the ability to influence, because parenting doesn't end at 18. Parenting continues until we take our final breath. You want to be able to influence your child. You don't want to have to be trying to control your child throughout your relationship with them.
So, I could talk to this all day, because I think that, like, what are some tips to better be able to influence? Because I can only speak, and I'm going to be really vulnerable in this around like my own relationship with my daughter, because it has changed over the years. And I feel for so many parents, because I think that, like, when you go back to control, we wouldn't even probably think of it as control. We just think, well, we know better. They're too young. They don't know yet. So I want to do this to protect them.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Can I just slow you down for a moment?
Please.
Because just that statement, I know better. I want to protect them. It is filled with anxiety. It's filled with stress and fear. And then that means stress and fear is driving our actions. If stress and fear is driving your actions, you're just going to create more stress and fear, because that's the vibration you're creating. So we have to slow down at that very beginning thought, right? We have to slow down, we have to breathe. And when we're breathing, now we can think more clearly, and we can remember. And yes, we may know a lot more than our children, but the point is, it's not our life. It's their life. And so they've got to navigate their life. And if we can walk alongside them in relationship with influence, we're going to have a lot greater ability to guide them and help them avoid the potholes in life, the risk in life, as opposed to trying to control because we're scared of what's going to happen. We're afraid they're going to fall. And then what happens is they take off running from us, and then they're going to end up in the pothole. Because not only are they running from us, they're looking back at us to see what we're doing, to see if we're chasing them. So we have to slow down, and we have to have some faith. We have to have faith in what we've done as parents along the way. We have to have faith that God is in control. We're not in control. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. I mean, I feel compelled to just say hashtag Charlie Kirk every time I speak from here on out, because it's like that's just a tragedy. But life is not promised to us. Life is not promised to us. There's nothing we can do to control the future. Deepak Chopra says you cannot prevent the future from happening, but you can influence the future from the present. So what's the energy? What's the vibration? What's the feeling? What are the thoughts that you're putting into the present moment? Because the present moment is what influences what's going to happen in the future. So if you're putting stress and anxiety and fear in the present, guess what's likely to show up in the future? More stress and anxiety and fear.
You know, it's interesting because I love all this so much. So I always say, like, and if we're looking at the results were just a lag of yesterday's thinking. So
Right.
to be able to change the results, not to focus on them, but what do you want to create? How do you want to show up? I know that's been huge for me and my daughter moving forward, is that I recognize that I was allowing something external to me to impact how I showed up. If she was doing what I thought was right that day, I was in a great mood. And if she wasn't, then I would be in a bad mood and almost then blame her for it when she had nothing to do with my mood. That was my choice. And it was like this awareness I had to come to terms with my own self of like, Stace, you can only show up as you want to be, and you wouldn't show up like this to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this in this relationship? And so I had to like make a really stop, like you said, and think of like, what is the relationship I want to have with her?
Yes.
How do I want to be able to influence her and be that now, regardless of what was going on?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
and you're a student of Bob Proctor, and he talks all the time about manifestation. We manifest in every relationship we're in, whether it is financial, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's parental, relational. We're always manifesting because we're always creating the energy of what it is that we are experiencing. And if we want to experience love, if we want to experience security in relationship, if we want to experience happiness in the future, we've got to get into it in the moment, regardless of what's showing up in the moment. And that is the hardest thing. And I let me tell you, I was just on the phone with a mom a couple days ago. Her adult daughter called and said the 8-year-old has the mom pulled down on the couch and has 2 handfuls of hair. What can we do? Help!
yeah.
Now listen, you think you're going to talk to mom about manifesting positivity when she's got an 8-year-old who's aggressive and has got 2 handfuls of hair? But you know what I did? I had the daughter put the phone on speakerphone, and I said, Mom, I said, I just need you to breathe. I need you to breathe. I need you to put your hands on top of his so he can't pull so he can't pull your hair out, because I don't want large swaths of your hair to come out. But I need you to breathe, and I need you to calm your body. And then I need you to tell him he's okay. I need you to tell him we're okay. Everything's is gonna be all right. And I said, keep your hands on top of his. And she's there and she's talking. She says, okay, now he's trying to let go. I said, and then I said, wrap your arms around him. Wrap your arms around him and tell him we're going to be okay. He's a little baby. Tell him he's going to be okay. And she said, now he wants to let go. I said, tell him you want to hang on to him. So I did just the exact opposite. Tell him you don't want him to go. Tell him you can keep him safe. Tell him everything's going to be okay. Before you know it, this is within minutes. Had he completely let go, right? Now he was in the kitchen. I told Mom, go into his room. She said, well, he's afraid of being by himself. I said, well, go into his room. That's fantastic. He's going to follow you into his room. So she goes into his room. I said, when he's in there, close the door, closed the door. I had the adult daughter go on the outside because I didn't want too much sensory stimulation. I said, now just tell him you're going to be in there until he feels better. And then after another couple of minutes, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I want to go clean up my mess. And that was probably about an 8-minute phone call. But see, what I had to do is I had to get her present in the moment. I had to get her present in the moment. I had to calm her in the moment. I had to shift her perspective from being a victim to being a winner, to being a parent, to being the force that is in control of her child, the person who can keep her safe. And we've got to be able to do that in every moment, in every situation. There's always going to be something stressful. I mean, I've got 65 employees. We have 60 high-risk, stressed-out families we work with every single day. There's always something to be stressed out over. In fact, sometimes every hour there's something. But I can't get overwhelmed by that. I've got to stay present in the moment. I got to do it in an easy and relaxed manner. I've got to breathe, because if I'm not breathing, if I'm not regulated, I can't convey that to the people I'm trying to support. And that is the same with parents. You cannot help you cannot help your child be regulated if you're stressed out. It just doesn't happen. And we have to stop all the reactive parenting, right? And the reactive parenting is exactly what you defined, Stacey, is exactly what we grew up with. Everything was fine until you did something you weren't supposed to do, and then your parents reacted. See, we grew up in emotionally absent homes because our parents were busy. They were trying to survive. They were trying to pay the bills. They had their own things going on. But what would happen is they would ignore you as a child, and this is speaking as a Gen Xer. They would ignore us. As long as we weren't rocking the boat, everything was good. You get called in for dinner, you go sit down, you eat, then you go back to your room or you go play with your friends. But as soon as you do something that you're not supposed to do, bam, the iron fist comes down. So it's reactive. So then we learn how to be emotionally absent to our own children, not present. And as soon as they do something they're not supposed to, now we're reacting. See, and then that's a vicious cycle. Because then what we're doing is we're teaching and modeling for our children the process of reaction. The process of reacting. We're not modeling for our children how to take responsibility. Giving a child a consequence is not taking responsibility. Giving a child a consequence is reacting to their behaviors. That's why children don't learn from consequences. Because consequences just create more stress. If something you're doing works, you don't have to keep doing it. That's why relationship is so powerful. That's why relationship is so fast and effective.
Yeah. Like it's been so crazy to me as a Gen X that wants to create more, and recognizing what beliefs I have to let go of to believe more in myself. And exactly what you're saying is that some of those things that I'm having to release now, and that we promote releasing to create more at whatever age, I'm teaching to my kids.
100%.
Like I see it. And then I was just like, and then I start to think, we were most uncovered, unmasked as children. Like they're the ones that are most tuned into their own intuition, that can leverage their imagination the most. And by me setting these types of rules around them, or what I think will help them to be set up most in society, is teaching them the same thing about to get the right check marks. And to stop trusting themselves and to start being a people pleaser. And so it's just comes with that awareness. But Bryan, I don't want people to think like we've done a bad job. We've done what we can do with what we're at. But what are some steps? More so even in rebuilding a relationship. Because honestly, when I even think about my own kids, if I come and I just breathe with them now, they're like, what are you doing? This is weird.
Yeah.
And I have two parts of it. So what are some things that we can do immediately to kind of help to rebuild, or to explain to the kids how we're doing it? Or do we not? Do we just model the behavior of what we want and move forward?
Well, I think the most effective way to start is definitely tell them that you love them. But if you know that you've done some things that you could have done better, then apologize. tell them that, this is what I did, and I apologize for that. And I realize now that it wasn't the best way to go about it. And let me share with you how I grew up. How I grew up is this, and it makes me really sad to think about that I grew up that way. See, here's the thing that we really don't talk about, Stacey, is that the single greatest trauma that impacts us on a larger scale than anything else is unexpressed grief. We have not learned to grieve. We just carry grief with us from one generation to the next generation, and it's just sewn in our DNA. And it's like, that's probably one of the reasons I've been thinking so much about Charlie Kirk and I didn't even know the guy. He actually presented at a conference I went to, but I'm impacted by that experience because that's grief on a massive level. That's grief on so the person who shot him was a person who had not grieved their pain. And now you've got more grief that's been created. And the only way to heal grief is to express, process, and understand it. So you have to keep expressing and processing and understanding it. That's how you have to express it. And unexpressed grief is the single most pervasive form of trauma that exists. So if there are things in your life that you feel sad about, grieve them. Share those sadnesses with your children, especially your adult children. Grieve them. Grieve for their sadnesses. Because if you've never had anyone to grieve for you, then you've probably not learned how to grieve for them. So then they've probably not learned how to grieve. So take the first step and learn how to grieve. And that's the one thing I said to the mom with the 16-year-old. I said, you and her have something to grieve together. Grieve that together and then decide how you can work through this next process in your relationship together as opposed to apart. So see, being able to express grief brings us closer together, helps strengthen our relationship. And we've just had generations of programming that says having feelings is not okay. Having feelings is a sign of weakness, and that's too bad.
It is interesting because something I see with my girls, I don't think it's their anomaly, is even their ability to, I don't want to say ignore, but their feelings, it's very, it's social media so rapid. I'm not blaming things on social media, but in the same regard, it's they'll go straight to distracting themselves versus allowing themselves to feel it, kind of thing. And so if they're upset, they'll be like, I just have to let's get on my phone, or I have to do something else. It's like, because I've been more apt to say, let's just breathe, or I need you to be able to process this without something outside of yourself. Is that right? Is that wrong? Is it one of those feel it to heal it? And I don't think when you say just grief, you're not just it can be the loss of anything, correct? Not just a person.
Any painful experience.
Yeah, for example, coming from I'm divorced, so my kids and I maybe have never grieved the divorce or grieved something else that I thought that we're okay, but I know they're very good at masking it, so to speak, as I have.
Sure, and it's just at the foundation of it is just a process of emotional release. It's just releasing energy. And I think we also have to be very mindful as parents, when we're looking at our children who can't stay in their feeling state without being distracted by something else, that makes us want to get them to not be distracted. Well, that is just another side of the same coin. Us wanting them to not be distracted is us trying to not be distracted by what we're feeling in that moment. So we have to learn to sit in it. We have to learn to stay present. And so do this. When you're in a moment with your child and they get distracted, and instead of trying to get them off the phone, you stay present. You keep breathing, stay present, keep looking at them. They look up at you, just smile. They say, what are you doing? You say, I'm just sitting here with you. I'm just enjoying being here with you. They're going to stay on their phone for a little bit longer, and then they're going to put it down. Because actually, we just have to make it through that moment of discomfort of being in presence with one another in order to realize that it's safe. When we can realize that it's safe, then we can put down those distractions and we can show up. but it's just getting through those first moments that are so challenging.
Because I'm going to do this and we'll do a follow-up on this because this is exactly what. But before we go into my 5 ageless questions for you, I just want you to share a little bit on Bondify.ai that you've created. It's an incredible project. AI meeting love-based parenting. Can you share with people how does it work and how do you see technology in this instance supporting parents in real time? Because I want to make sure that people can get a hold of this and know the show notes afterwards, because I know
Yeah.
for me, you've hit hard.
Well, I created Bondify because I've had so many parents over the years say, "Will you just come home with me?" And
Yes.
well, I can't, but now I can. And we have programmed Bondify, which is just Bryan Post on an app on your phone, and you can ask it questions. It's programmed with 25 years of my knowledge base, and it's trained to respond to parents the same way I would respond to them in real time. And I've had parents who said, when something's going on or I'm getting stressed, I go in the bathroom and I start talking to you. And it's just like you're talking back to me. That is exactly what I want to do. I believe that if I can just connect with parents in the moment before the crisis escalates, I can help them reroute the pathway of energy. And if I can do that, I can help change the complete outcome of what they're going through. And so Bondify is number one. It's an AI reciprocal app that parents can ask questions to and get answers. There's also a community on there, and there's also loads of educational resources of my books, videos, and articles where they can continue to get repetition and learn this love-based method. And they can try it complimentary for 14 days. And then even after the 14 days, if they decide to continue using it, it's only like $19 a month. For really the cost of a therapy session, they can get access to me for an entire year, 24/7. And I just believe it's going to be a big game changer, especially in this age of technology.
So I'm with you. I need you in my pocket. And it is true. And I think that for a lot of us, like I said, we just don't know a different thing. And so there's no reason for us not to learn a new thing in this age where everything is so apparent. But your approach is incredible. And you brought up Charlie Kirk's name a couple of times today, and I also I didn't even know the name, honestly, until yesterday. I do want to send out our condolences, but I think this is what you teach, Bryan, isn't just about parenting relationships. It's about every relationship.
Every
And
relationship.
I left a post earlier today, like what we need is more love. And I love how you put it, like it's the fear that stops us from loving, because we almost have to go into this place of unknown. But until we're willing to go into the unknown to create what it is that we want, we'll just continue getting more of the same. So I always want to promote this even for anyone, and not just with children, and to Bryan's point, of children of any age, because I really feel everything that you've shared today helps in every relationship we have.
I believe so. Healing is the most powerful. Love is the most powerful healing force in the universe. Love. Love can heal all things, but we just have to get out of our own fear first in order to be able to access love. And it's always available to us in any given moment. We just have to slow down and breathe.
Take a deep breath, because I'm going to hit you with 5 ageless question.
Let's go for it.
All right, let's roll. All right, Bryan, what's one belief you're done with?
One belief that I am done with. Ooh, man, that is a good question. What is one belief that I'm done with? Wow, and I want to answer honestly and authentically. I'm done with believing that there is a separation between us. We are not separate. We're all connected. We're all one. We all rise and we all fall. So I'm done with that.
What's one habit you swear by?
Breathing. I breathe mindfully every single day, throughout the day. It is the most important thing to do, and not just the autonomic response breathing, but conscious, mindful breathing.
It's like a Is there like like I've heard like 4 in, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Does it matter? It's just like
I
follow
do
and
all of that. In fact, I was on Instagram, and on Instagram, I have this one channel I subscribe to. It goes ding, breathe in, hold, breathe out. I do all of that stuff. Just breathe. Just get conscious about your breathing. Slow down and breathe.
stop judging yourself on if you're doing it right or wrong. Just
Right.
focus on it. What's one question, Bryan, that you ask yourself often?
Those are excellent questions. One thing I ask myself often, am I showing up in the most loving way that I possibly can? Am I showing up in the most loving, regulated way that I possibly can? And if I'm not, how do I get there?
What's a book or a quote that, you've mentioned a couple quotes earlier, but a book or quote that's changed you?
Probably, I love books, as you can tell from my bookshelf.
I see it. I mean, I was like, okay.
One of my favorite current books is called U Squared by Price Pritchard. I think it's fantastic.
I 100% agree. I mean, the Quantum Leap, the Fly story, it's one
That's
of my
great.
favorites. So what's one of that's just a book. If anyone hasn't reach out, Bryan and I will get you it in your hands.
Great.
It is the best way to quantum leap your life. My last one for you, Bryan. What's your definition of an exposed, ageless life?
Ooh, that's good. My definition of an exposed, ageless life is someone who seeks to be present in every moment. Because if you can be present in every moment, you can engage every moment for right now without judgment, without shame, and just grow in the depth of awareness for all the beauty that exists in every single moment. And if we can do that, then that is certainly exposed, and it's ageless because it's beyond time. It's ever present.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
People aren't in your world, and I know they're going to want to be after this, how do they get a hold of you, or what's the best way to find out more about Bryan Post and everything that you have going on?
Probably just bryanpost.com, Bryan with a Y, and you can get to my Instagram, you can get to my YouTubes. Everything's probably, that's the easiest.
I'm so grateful for you, for everything that you shared, for taking the time today to be with us.
Stacey.
Honestly, Bryan, it was so exposed for me. So thank you. And for everyone listening, I know, reach out to Bryan. He's incredible. And we just scratched the surface of some of the things that he talks about. And until next time, stay ageless.
That's it for today's episode of Xposed Living, Be Ageless. But this is just the beginning. If this episode made you feel something, share it. Tag me. Send it to a friend. Let's start the conversation we can be having all along. No shame, no guilt. Unfiltered, raw, real, exposed. And if you're ready to go deeper, join us inside the Xposed Living Facebook community, where we take this work off the podcast and into real life. Know this, your change starts when your excuses die. Because this life, this one wild, ageless, unforgettable life is waiting on you. This is your time. This is your truth. This is Xposed Living.